Andrea Bargnani was the first overall pick by the Toronto Raptors in the 2006 NBA draft. His play style was often criticized in the late 2000s and early 2010s, which led to him being out of the NBA by age 30. However, there might be some ways that the modern era could have been the best case scenario for a player of Bargnani's skill sets and tendencies. What's going on, guys? SMH Super Mario Hoops back with some more hoops, and today we're going to be talking about Andrea Bargnani, who, once again, like I said, first overall pick in 2006. A lot of people label him as a draft bust, even though he did have a season where he averaged 20 points a game. We're going to kind of delve into how he could have played today if you translate his stats via pace, minutes per game, average efficiency, and so on. So let's start off with his efficiency. So on average for his career, he finished 154th in finishing efficiency in his career if you take every season into account. That's about the range within 3 feet from the basket, where he shot 59.3% from the field. Now, the 154th finisher around the rim in terms of efficiency last season was at 64.8%. So naturally, we're going to bump it up to that scale to translate where he would stand today. On average, he ranks 74th in mid-range every season of his career if you put it all together. 10-16 foot range, where he shot 43.7% from the field over his career. Now, the 74th finisher in the mid-range area last season finished with a 46.5% efficiency. So that's also going to bounce up. And then on average, he finished 81st in three-point percentage with a career average of about 35.5%, which even for that era, not only is it good for any position, but especially a big man. He's going to bounce up to 37.1% because that's where the 81st finisher last season finished. On average, he ranked about 40th in free throw percentage. Now, the 40th finisher in free throw percentage last season was 84.2%. Whereas Bargnani for his career finished 82.4%. So he's going to move up in all these efficiency categories. Overall, his rating change from field goal percentage moves up 2.1%. From three-point percentage would move up 1.6%. And the free throw line would move up 1.8%. All noticeable changes in the modern era. As we move on to the pace of the league, now it's important to note that this is going to have a big change in terms of how he plays, how many minutes he's allowed to play, how many possessions he's allowed to play, and in terms of translating the stats, I think it's also important. So in terms of the average for his era, every year, if you put it all together, about 92.4 possessions every game is what teams were getting. Whereas in the modern era, just last season, it was at 99.4 possessions per game by an average team. And actually, so far this season, it's even higher. Now, his career minutes per game was at 28.7 for his career. However, the reason I think he would play even more today is because his body and where it was in 2006, I think would have a benefit over a lot of these other players that you see come into the draft. A lot of players today, when they come into the NBA, they have a lot of AAU experience, and they're playing a lot in the event that it actually leads to them maybe more wear and tear on their body, more injuries. And Bargnani was not 100% healthy, don't get me wrong, but I think he would have that benefit over some of these other players if you inserted him in today's NBA. Also, based on his position, in terms of where he ranked for his position back then, in the 35th percentile for quality big men, that is. So now he would play about 33 minutes a game. That's also a huge boost because his stats are going to go up. I think the other thing too with AAU or overworking players earlier is that Bargnani also played overseas, whereas some of these other guys, it's not even just AAU, but also college ball or travel ball teams. That definitely plays a factor. So now let's do his stat conversion. And after we've adjusted his efficiency, he's going to have an increase in field goals made per game by 0.3 per game, which results in 0.6 points per game more. That's 2-point field goals, that is. Now, he would increase in 3-point makes by 0.1 per game so far, which is a 0.3 point per game advantage to his career points per game. He would increase in free throws by 0.1 points per game for his career again. If you factor in pace, he would increase in points per game by 1.3 points per game. He would increase also by 0.4 rebounds a game. He would also move up by 0.2 assists per game, 0.03 steals per game, and then also 0.1 blocks per game. Now, if you factor in the minute change, where instead of playing 28.7 for his career, now we're sitting at about 33 minutes a game, because the average player of his size playing that many minutes for a starter, that's about where he ranked, in the 35th percentile, like I said. He would increase in points per game by another 2.5 points a game, increase by 0.8 rebounds per game, increase by 0.2 assists per game, increase by 0.05 steals per game, and then 0.2 blocks per game. Now, it's also important to note that this is a new era of basketball. I don't think anybody is alarmed by that. I think everybody is well aware of that. So we have to factor in the new era. And in terms of Bargnani's era, players were attempting 19.56 three-point attempts a game on an average by a team. In Bargnani's era as well, about 81.96 field goal attempts per game were being taken. That's 23.87% of all shots were three-pointers. Now, in today's era, there's 35.2 three-point attempts a game. In today's era, there's also 88.1 field goal attempts a game, which means that 39.95% of all shots were three-pointers. So if you do the math there, that is about 16% higher. So Bargnani, for his career, he would average 4 three-point attempts a game after factoring minutes and pace, but then it jumps to an increase in three-point attempts by 0.7 a game for Bargnani, and an increase in three-pointers made by 0.3 based on its new efficiency, which is 0.9 more points per game. Now, if you also manage usage rate, which I haven't really even talked about at this point, teams averaged 21.6 assists per game back then, and now they're averaging 3 more a game, 24.6. So there's much more ball movement. About 24% was his usage rate at that time, but if you multiply it by the additional 3 assists per game, and then you add it on to his assists per game as well, that's going to be a 0.7 edge in assists per game too. 41.9 rebounds per game was the team average a decade ago. Now it's gone up to 44.5 rebounds a game. Now, his rebounding percentage for his career, I did bump it up to about 15%, mainly because the mid-range game is going to be kind of abandoned in this era. Even though Bargnani was in the higher percentiles of the league in terms of how many he took, that's probably not going to be the case in this era. So a 2.6 rebound per game jump by teams, and you multiply that by what I gave him as a 15% rebounding rate, that would increase his rebounds per game by another 0.4. So now let's look at the stats and just see how he looks. Back then, he averaged 14.3 points per game, 4.6 rebounds a game, 1.2 assists per game, 0.4 steals a game, 0.9 blocks a game, on 1.5 turnovers, 43.9% from the field, 35.4% from 3, 82.4% from the free throw line, and then 53.1% true shooting. So he had one season where he averaged 20 points a game in real life. He had 4 seasons where he averaged 15 points a game, 5 where he averaged at least 5 rebounds a game, and he had 1 season where he averaged 6 rebounds a game. 1 time he averaged more than 2 assists per game, and 3 times he averaged more than 1 block per game. Overall, not too bad. But now in this modern era, with the conversions, Bargnani would average 20 points per game, 6.2 rebounds a game, 2.1 assists a game, 0.5 steals per game, 1.2 blocks per game, 1.5 turnovers a game, 46% from the field, 37.1% from 3, 84% from the free throw line, and his true shooting percentage would go up to 60.9%. He would have 8 seasons where he averaged more than 15 points a game, 5 times he would average more than 20 points a game, twice he would average more than 25 points a game. And now he would also have 7 seasons averaging 5 rebounds a game, 5 seasons where he averaged more than 7 rebounds a game, and even 1 season where he averaged more than 8 rebounds a game. He would have 5 seasons averaging 2 assists per game. He would also have 2 seasons averaging more than 3 assists a game, which he had never done before. 4 times he would average more than 1 block a game, and he would even have 1 season where he would now average more than 1.5 blocks a game. Now, in terms of his top 3 seasons, I think this is very impressive because I'm also factoring the team success would probably be similar to how it was in real life. No one could really predict like what team he would be on in this era, of course. But his best season would have been his 5th season where he was age 25. Now, he played 66 games this year, but his new stats would translate to 29.9 points per game. Yeah. 7 rebounds a game, 3 assists a game, 0.6 steals per game, 0.8 blocks per game, 2.3 turnovers a game, 47% from the field, 36.2% from 3, 83.6% from the free throw line, and 59.6% true shooting. Now, like I said, it's kind of hard to predict like what the team standard would be. If I were to predict, he definitely would be an all-star this year, averaging about 30 points a game. You're pretty much a lock to make the all-star team. And then I say he would also be all-NBA second team, because this is a season in real life where they actually were kind of middle-of-the-pack team. Like, they weren't even a bad team. So I think personally he would be an all-NBA second team member and an all-star. Now, his second best season was season 4, age 24. He played 80 games. The new stats would translate to 24.1 points a game, 8.4 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 0.4 steals, and 1.9 blocks per game. 1.5 turnovers a game on 49.2% from the field, 39% from 3, 79% from the free throw line, and 62.2% true shooting. Now, if you look at this season as opposed to the one before, you actually see that this one, he was more efficient, playing more defense. He was averaging a career high in rebounds a game as well, and he even played more games. So I think he would also be All-NBA this year. Now, the stats probably aren't as eye-popping, but I think he would be an all-star, and I give him the benefit of the doubt that he would be third-team All-NBA. And as for his third best season, season 6, age 26, where he would play 31 games in the season, still would average 27.3 points a game, 7.4 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 0.8 steals, 0.7 blocks, 2.2 turnovers, 45.3% from the field, 31% from 3, 89% from the free throw line, and 60.8% true shooting. Overall, the efficiency wasn't that bad. I mean, his three-point percentage did go down this season. His second highest scoring season, one of his best rebounding years, one of his best passing years too. I do think he would be an all-star. Now, playing 31 games, there's a good chance that you probably don't get much more than that. If he had played maybe 71 games this season, then I would be more willing to consider him for an All-NBA team once again. But for now, I'm just going to say he's an all-star because he missed so many games. I mean, outside of these 3 years, though, for Bargnani, there is unlikely to be any more achievement success. I don't even think he'd be an all-star any other season. He still wouldn't be a great defender, and he still might not be great at rebounding. But there are guys today like Nikola Vucevic or Kristaps Porzingis who do those things respectively, and they're still seen as relatively good players. His offensive efficiency would be on full display, and his somewhat lack of ball security and isolation would be kind of overshadowed by today's pace of play. Additionally, I think he would also succeed more in pick and roll execution and ball movement as an individual player too. At this projected peak, he still would likely never be a top 5, maybe not even top 10 player in the league at any specific point, except maybe his best season, which was the season 5. But today's era benefits him so much, and in all, I believe that many people would change their opinions on Andrea Bargnani, because some have gone as far as labeling him as a bust, like I said, and I simply don't think that's an accurate representation of his abilities. So you guys can let me know in the comment section below what you think of Andrea Bargnani. What did you think of him when he was in the league, and do you think he would benefit more in the modern NBA? I mean, just by doing the stats conversions through pace, through efficiency, through minutes per game, then you see the changes, and it looks like a player that's a pretty quality player. I'm not guaranteeing he would be the best player in his draft class, or if you moved him into a draft class like 10 years later, I'm not guaranteeing he would be the best player in even that draft class. But what I do know is even if he went number 1 overall, people would not be calling him a bust nearly as much as they are today. And I think that's the important thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I haven't done a video like this in a while, so it was good to, get back in the groove of things. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. I'm out. Peace.